Okay, so yes, COVID has had its own impact project, but also project participants. It's basically like a default conversation now. As much as we've had work stopped, so also have their lives stopped. Some of them couldn't even finish training because COVID took away their livelihood, hence couldn't even afford to live here in Accra, which is the city where the training is going on. Some went back to their villages, hoping that when COVID sort of vanishes, which I doubt, they would come back and look for sustainable jobs that could afford them the luxury of even making themselves available for training. So yes, it has impacted on their lives and also on our lives. Um, some participants or are beneficiaries who were promised individual partnerships to start up their own transport services. All those proposed arrangements have been cancelled because their proposed, how do I say it? Their proposed angel investors have all backed out because they are not so sure of a COVID recovering economy. So they're very skeptical in investing in vehicles for our ladies to even start up their taxi businesses. So yes, we've had a very rough whacking of this whole COVID menace. It really whacked us as to we, the project implementers, and also the project participants. No one has been spared.
Mr. Snam, in terms
Yes,
of
sir.
everyday
Oh, sorry,
living,
Mario.
how are things nowadays?
Yeah.
Because I know we've been spending much time discussing how things were during the heavy COVID months, like a year ago or like during last summer. But nowadays, how do you, once you got back on the road, once you got back traveling with people, having people over as tourists again in Accra?
How do I even describe this conversation that has come up? What's the best way to describe it? We've all sort of have to relearn to warm up to each other. So if you ask me, it's the whole interaction with ourselves, either with we as Ghanaians interacting with the very few foreigners who have braved the odds to travel again or hit the traveling trips, interacting as locals to locals. I could only bring an analogy of a baby learning how to evolve from crawling to walking. That's the best way I can analyze or give a background or a picture to it. It's as though we are babies trying our best, trying to figure out our foothold to evolve from crawling to walking. Yes, pre-COVID, we had our whole lives going on for us. And all of a sudden, we realize we have to change or we have to relearn or even totally learn new things other and for how long we even want to be with each other. That's one interesting thing I have come to realize, that once you connect with someone, that connection sort of wants to linger on. It's as though we were all kept in a cage and we're coming out and we find the very first person who wants to interact with us, and we want to hold on. We just want to hold on to that one person that is ready to open up and interact with us. Yes. So a lot has changed. So also has our way of communicating or way of interaction also has changed.
And Kada, would you like to share something with Miss Sesanam?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about this human interaction that you were saying, because lately I have been thinking, you know, since let's say since Better Together, actually, I remember that maybe a month after it, I was still so excited. I was posting, you know, about my experience there and so on. And then, you know, I kind of got myself into this bubble. I went from, I mean, from Korea, I went back to Romania. From Romania, I went to Estonia, because that's where I felt like I could be in a bubble. And so I was craving for human interaction, but it was really, really hard for me to actually get in touch with people. You know, I mean, nowadays we have this tool, internet, right? It's you can do whatever, and you know, it's also funny because I remember the first time I got my my webcam, and I was so excited about, you know, talking to people from all around the world and so on, getting to know more and more foreigners and this kind of thing. And now it's like when I see that my grandma, right, because she just now she got a smartphone, and she's calling me like on a video call, and I'm like, oh, she doesn't know what a phone call is anymore. You know, everybody's calling, everybody's doing video calls and so on, and it feels like it's so annoying. Like I don't like it as much, you know. I don't as I used to. Yeah, and because in Estonia, I was honestly, I was living in my friend's apartment rather than living in Estonia. I really felt like I needed human energy. So sometimes, because she's not a huggy person, I would just go and touch her with you know, my finger like this. So I was like, man, I just need a little bit of, you know, human touch, let's say. Yeah, so I don't know, how do you guys feel about this, you know, because lately I'm also on this website. I'm finding myself, you know, on this website. It's like a pen pal website. It's called Interpulse. I don't know if you know about it. And I am there. I'm not in the mood for small talk, nor for, you know, this stupid chit chats and everything. And I don't actually, you know, I'm just waiting for people to message me, because they're like 100 every day. And everybody, you know, I'm asking them, what are you doing here? They're also asking me, and I don't know. I feel like, man, I don't know. Maybe I need attention. I don't know what it is, really.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's exactly the same, but in a different way. Like, for example, when this whole thing outbroke, I was alone in the middle of Athens because I live in the city center. So for me, it was something like so exciting getting to see the city empty and not in menace and not people driving up and down the main roads to go anywhere. So I started feeling really free. I started feeling that I can walk slowly. I started feeling that I can enjoy the smells, the air, everything was cleaner. And this is something that I really loved during the first days. And as the time went by and realizing that even my closest people weren't able to interact with me, both in a business environment or a personal level, I started realizing that it was a moment of me keeping up and offering myself a hug or something to just do another day out of the house, because it was really difficult to stay in the house. So I didn't have the opportunity to interact with many people. And suddenly, when everyone went nuts, when the lockdowns were uplifted and everybody went back on the streets, I started not approaching people. Suddenly, their energies are expressed like vibrant borders. You have a sense of, you already know what kind of energy everybody brings when they are walking down the road. You can easily sense the angry ones, you can easily sense the nervous ones, you can easily sense the ones that are really smiling because they are having another day. And for me, that was, whoa, I couldn't sense that before we create that distance. And now that everybody's back together, I feel this vibrant environment around me with energies mixing up in a so ridiculous and strange way. Sam, how was it for you?
I think, well, sometimes I remember watching a video a while ago on YouTube. There's some people kind of proposing the deep conversation where people kind of skip the small talk and just try to ask the big questions in life. And like, what's your biggest challenge you've encountered so far? I know it would be kind of weird to like start a conversation with a stranger like that, but sometimes I feel like we do have to ask some big questions. Otherwise, it's all like, "Hi, how are you doing?" And like every time it's like all the small talk. And well, I guess also to some extent, like, you know, the kind of relationship or conversation level can just go further. So yeah, I think that's like some interesting question to think about. And also talking about looking for strangers to talk to, I feel the same way as you said. I'm like using MIT language exchange website, trying to talk to people. And my experience of using the website is like I send 50 messages to different people, and I got only 10 reply. And among the 10 people that reply, only like 1 or 2 people would agree to meet. So I mean, it's kind of like a number game. You're like reaching out to random people and hoping that you'll be able to find someone that could have a quality conversation with you. Like you don't really know what's going on, so you have to really send a lot of messages and hoping that someone would be interested in talking with you, like in a conversation like that.
For me personally, is I don't know. It's like I'm blaming the media and for all this misinformation and all, you know, sometimes there are also fake news a lot in the media, and also people. It's like instead of grabbing something positive, right? They're always grabbing on something, you know, negative. Or they just believe everything, the most negative thing out of everything, they just believe that that's true because, you know, it should be negative. Or I don't know, it's maybe because we're living in this, like, I mean, there are so many people who've had such a bad life. And you know, in Romania right now we also have a political crisis for quite some time right now. I mean, we are changing the prime minister like every, I don't know, few months, and we don't even know, like, we're so confused, we don't even know what to believe in anymore. And it feels like, I think it depends on education as well, or I don't know how to classify people, you know, when they're kind of like gathering together, and then you know, I don't know, they tend to believe all this crap without actually, you know, checking the sources and everything like that. And when I tell them, you know, something like, you should rethink this, or you know, actually asking them questions, how do you know it, how do you know it's true, and so on. It's, you know, it goes into all this nonsense that I actually don't want to go to. And it's sometimes unfortunately I'm seeing it in my family, you know, and I'm alone in here. I'm alone because they all think the same, they all act the same, and I'm just alone. And it personally kind of I don't know, maybe shakes me a little bit, you know, because it makes me fearful to even stand up for something, you know. So that's why maybe I, you know, I'm closing myself more and more and more, and I'm opening in this kind of situations when, you know, I'm talking to people from my tribe that I know, you know, that they understand. So yeah, I wouldn't know what to say about. I just know that it's total chaos in Romania, and I'm seeing how more people are trying to believe all these conspirational theories instead of, I don't know, thinking about something else. So yeah, I wouldn't know what to tell you more.
I guess my quick comment would be like, well, I guess in China, I was raised and just growing up as a lot of the other people who don't really care about politics and, just believe in what the government wants to tell us until one day I started, just seeing the world that's much bigger than what you see in China. And I think I start, doubting and questioning about the things. And I guess a part of the reason is like in China you only have one narrative, where well, I guess like in that kind of Western world you have different views, but then also like it's also challenging as well when you have so many different sources of information like you mentioned. It's a little bit confusing and you don't know what to believe. I guess that's even more so critical during the COVID time, where I kind of do feel like when you have like a central information that's helpful, well, I mean, to some extent, because you want people to wear a mask and people would follow because they just believe in everything that the government is talking about. So I think in that regard, it's helping people. Also, I like that kind of collectivism in China where people are willing to sacrifice a little bit of their privacy in order to kind of compromise that to have a better public safety. For example, when government is saying that you should wear a mask, and also like people would just follow. But then you also have the trade-off in like privacy, like in social media, for example. Now I think the huge giants like Tencent and the other internet company, they are doing the censorship and the media control for the government. So basically, if you're saying anything negative um, against the government, they'll be able to know who said it, and then you might be in trouble. So I mean, it's always like pros and cons. So I also kind of went through a process where at first I was just like the other people, firmly believing what everything the government says because that's just how it works in China, until a point where I kind of like, oh, maybe the Western thing seems to be better. So I kind of, like it over the other. But now kind of like, in a questioning period where I kind of feel like certain things might work well in the Western world, like the freedom of speech, but then you also have certain systems that work better in China, like public safety and also like, like a central guidance when it comes to pandemic and also like huge crisis. Yeah, so I think it's a mixed feeling for me when I'm looking at like the freedom of speech. But I was also talking with the other people from America, and as well, I think some of their key opinions would be like, well, people need to be able to kind of judge the source of the media, but not everyone is well educated or trained to do that. But then if they are not like fully aware of that kind of different sources of information, they can just constantly subscribe to fake news or feeling confused. I think that's also another trap or tricky thing. Yeah, probably.
Okay, let's give the floor to Miss Esenam because probably it's getting late there in Accra. So Miss Esenam.
Over here in Ghana, we don't have a cause to really complain. We're still enjoying a fair freedom of speech, if I would say a fair one, relatively. What I can rather say is that I guess Africans, we have our own coping mechanisms. The resilience I see my fellow Ghanaians exhibit in trying to bounce back to life, not just economically, but even socially and psychologically, it's beyond measure. I thought it was going to be slow, but I think what we have been doing to help ourselves is still holding on to our communal society, the communal structure of our society. We still haven't let go of it. And thank God we didn't even start to even think about restructuring our interactive modus operandi way before COVID came in. So hence, I could see that as much as it looks bad, we still have our support system, which is your community. And when I say your community, you have, of course, your immediate family. We still believe in our extended family, and then also the larger surrounding society around us. Yeah, a communal society or a structured communal society comes with its ups and downs. So also do you have the pros and cons of the individualistic society that the West has now. More so the bashing of this whole pandemic on the West more than the developing spaces. Because if you look at it, the developing spaces have their own communal structure of ordering society, whereby the other isn't. Hence, suicide rates within such developing society like Africa, so far as even this pandemic is concerned, is so low. Because we are each other's keeper.
Please allow me to make us all a little bit more cheerful, because I know that all of us have also good news to share to each other. And Son, I will start with Son, because yesterday you told us about something really interesting in these few moments that you join us about reflective.
Do you mean effective altruism?
Effective altruism.
Yeah.
Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on this one?
Right. Maybe I'll share a little bit. I think there's a forum. Let me take a look. Yeah, I think there's a website I can post in the group chat. So yeah, so I mean, like when it comes to helping people, I guess like I'm interested in this concept after joining this club in the university. So every week we would do some reading, kind of discuss, what effective altruism is all about. So basically, it's kind of like understanding some of the moral reasoning and also the philosophy, like how people make their decisions. And some people would, I guess it applies to more if you work with like a foundation who might have a lot of money, and then they're thinking about who should I donate the money to support the cause, and should it be A, should it be B, should it be, some project that's in the country, or maybe it's somewhere abroad. So I guess like this is more about like learning the reason of why you should spend resources on doing A instead of like doing B, and what are some of the underlying consequences if you make the decision, because it's all about making choices. And when you have 1,000 yuan you can spend on A, then you cannot spend on B. So priorities, making choices, and also like I guess it's also talking about when you're solving a problem, how feasible the solution is, and how many people the project might be impacting, and also what's the kind of like the benefit for the people. And also when you have lots of different solutions, then which one could be working more effectively. There's a case talking about when you're trying to promote the idea of being vegetarian, and there were researches done where companies spend tons of money trying to send out the leaflets and brochures to people on the street and trying to convince them about the idea, and it seems like it didn't work. But on the other hand, if you're trying to kind of talk to the companies like Starbucks or, you know, the other, you know, big name companies and try to sell them the idea of like promoting like some greener, you know, menu or less of like consumption of meat, and maybe it will work better than just talking to individuals. So these are some of the interesting ideas when it comes to implementation and what are some better ways to make it happen. So even the goal is the same, to kind of reduce the meat consumption, and there are still a lot of different approaches to doing it, and you might be able to do some research and see what people have done before, and so you can kind of figure out a better way to solve it. Yes.
Do you believe that it is something that you are seeing as a tool that could probably be used in different ways?
Yeah, I'm kind of like have a mixed feeling towards it. I know sometimes like doing fancy PPT or doing a lot of analysis, it's more like when you're trying to pitch your project to potential investors or donors, and this seems like maybe adding more reasoning and, you know, for people like why I should invest in you but not other people. I think that makes sense, like when you're trying to present your project and sell the idea to people. I think that makes sense, but I also agree with what you said just now. I think sometimes it's more like you start from something you personally care and you think that just small things can make a change. And, you know, somehow I also feel like if it's just free listening, there's a guy that's always near our university. He has a sign posted called free listening. And I talked with him 2 times and I was asking him like, are you a student here? He said, no. I said, why are you here? He just said, I feel like the world doesn't have a lot of people who are willing to listen when people have their voices, but they don't have someone to talk to. So if you're saying that, is it really worth like spending your time here while you can make tons of money or you can maybe save the world? Probably from effective altruism, it doesn't make sense because, you know, he could have used the time to do something more valuable or helping other people. But I guess why not? It's just something small you can do, like, you know, from yourself. And I think I appreciate that. I think it's like it's just mixed feelings. And yeah, I agree, like it doesn't have to be like super analysis, and once you have done so many things and you still can't figure out like what you should do, and it's also a little bit tricky. Yeah, I agree.
For me, it's exactly the thing that you know, we were actually talking about. Let's take internet for the instance, right? In the 2000s, or I don't know, 2005 maybe. It was when, you know, internet brought people together because you can actually talk to someone at, you know, the other side of the world, and, you know, make different kind of connections that you can actually not make right face to face. But nowadays, right, it's becoming harder to have a real connection with someone over the internet, with everything, you know, that we have all these gadgets. Like, we can actually see each other, we can hear each other, and so on. So I think, in my opinion, I think that what people need right now, or what we need to do right now, is to see how can we get back to, you know, this community, or how can we actually bring people together, not necessarily by actually using the internet, but, you know, something maybe like half what you're doing exactly, Mario. I'm not sure, you were talking yesterday about your new project, right, with people like traveling, right, but still it's not VR, it's not a closed space, right? I'm really curious about it, and I really want to know more about that. So I think this is what we should actually focus on, right? How to foster this kind of connections, right? How actually kind of like going back to basic, right? I feel this is important for me. And of course, even if you're not gonna go out and talk like you know, Sheng was saying, like small talk, or you know, just go deeply into some like deep conversation, but still, I think this is what we should focus on, because now, I don't know, with all this confusion, all this the information all over. It's and even, you know, it's like we have a lot of everything. Then the pandemic is coming. It's kind of forcing us to pull apart, right? But then we're still, you know, we cannot live without human interaction. And yeah, so I think we should just, yeah, go back to basic. And me as a community builder, I'm really, you know, trying to realize what is it that we should do. Maybe that's the reason why I'm going here and there, you know, asking people different questions, because I really want to know how we should do stuff. You know, I created a, a group on Facebook because there is no group for volunteers in Constanza, in my hometown. And I created it. I put a very nice picture there. I said about it and everything and so on. But there are no members because I don't actually know how to bring them, you know. Yeah, I could just post everywhere, but I really want to know about maybe like some new values, you know, because nowadays people are in all these groups, and you can see that no one is actually interacting with anyone. I mean, you're part of everything, but no one writes anything in that group. So is it really communities that we're trying to create, or is it something else, right? Things are evolving, but are they evolving in the right way?
I don't have much experience to share, but I guess maybe what Kata is asking about is like, from social media perspective, how can we attract more people? I guess like maybe you would like to consider maybe setting up your separate Instagram or Facebook page, and then, you know, start from there. I wasn't doing anything like that, but I'm writing like a small kind of personal blog on my WeChat official account, just like sharing my own experiences. Not many people like read articles, like 400 something read per article, but I guess it's also like you need to build that kind of, you know, traffic, you know, from scratch. I guess like you can share your personal thoughts, maybe some projects you're working on, and then you can add some people that are maybe in your country or in this field that are like kind of experts, or they are kind of leading a lot of campaigns in that field, and maybe they see your post, they would also share, and so that maybe you can attract some local people from your country to join.
Right. So sorry for that. I'm kind of you know, still going on with this, but actually what I want to say is like where I want to go. You know, because Sean was saying about you have to use social media, so you kind of, and you were saying also that you have to show yourself, right? Everything you've done, and so you can set an example. So when it comes to this, as you know, I do have an Instagram account. I do have a Facebook page, which, you know, I'm seeing actually lately that although I have like 1,800 friends on Facebook, there is not so much engagement as it used to be, you know, in past days. I don't know if I get to, maybe if I post a selfie of myself, I'm going to have like maybe 100 likes or something like this. So what I'm good at is creating communities, right? But why do I want to make this? Because actually I want to create a communities. You know, it's like, you know, you can just pass the term, right? But I just want to create a group, let's say, of volunteers, but mostly because I started volunteering quite late, but I realized how good it is for me as an individual, not per se, you know, for the society, let's say. You know, when one person told me that volunteering is actually a selfish act, I was very angry with it. You know, I thought like, how can you say that? I'm just doing it because I'm such a good person, right? But actually you're getting more out of it than you're actually giving, right? So because I'm coming from Constanza, a place where things don't happen, you know, and I'm trying to, let's say, learn or teach people, you know, the things that I learned, or not even teach, maybe just give them information that, you know, there are things like this happening and you can actually do this, because I didn't know them.
But I want to thank you and everybody for being here, and probably we will manage to bring forth what discussed. So I'm looking forward collaborating with all of you. I believe the projects that have surfaced are really interesting. And let's keep it up.
Yep. Hey.
Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.